You've heard it. I've heard it. We've all heard it. It might be one of the most famous and most misused lines from the entire Bible. Someone offers a piece of advice, a word of caution, or even a direct criticism, and the shield goes up. Judge not, that you be not judged. Matthew chapter 7, verse 1. It's the ultimate conversation stopper. It's the spiritual equivalent of mind your own business. It's used to defend almost any behavior and to shut down any form of accountability. And on the surface, it seems so simple. Don't judge people, period. It feels good. It feels freeing. It suggests a world where we all just accept each other, no questions asked. Live and let live. You do you. This interpretation is incredibly popular because it demands nothing of us except to look the other way. It gives us a free pass to ignore destructive behavior in others, and more importantly, it gives us a bulletproof excuse to demand that others ignore it in us. Only God can judge me isn't just a tattoo for many, it's a life motto built on this one verse. But is that really what Jesus meant? Did he really intend for his followers to switch off their brains, to suspend all critical thinking, and to simply nod along with everything and everyone? Did he want us to see a friend driving their life into a ditch and just say, well, who am I to judge? It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't line up with the rest of what he taught, which was often very direct and called for significant life changes. Something deeper has to be going on here. The problem with pulling one verse out of the Bible is that it's like taking one sentence out of a long letter. You lose the context, you lose the tone, you lose the author's real point. To understand what judge not actually means, we have to put it back where it belongs. We have to read the rest of the letter. We have to look at what Jesus said right before and right after. And when we do that, a much richer, more challenging, and ultimately more helpful picture emerges. This isn't a command to be mindless. It's a command to be humble. It's not about turning a blind eye to right and wrong. It's about dealing with the mess in your own life before you try to fix someone else's. Let's start with the immediate neighborhood of the verse. Jesus doesn't just say, judge not, and then move on. He explains himself immediately. The very next lines are the key to the whole thing. He says, judge not, that you be not judged. For with the judgment you pronounce, you will be judged, and with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. This is the first clue. It's about reciprocity. The standard you use on other people is the standard that will be applied to you. If you are harsh, unforgiving, and quick to condemn, then you are setting that as the standard. You are essentially telling God, this is how I believe people should be treated. And God, in a sense, says, okay, let's apply that standard to you then. This should give us pause. Are we really ready to be scrutinized with the same merciless, critical eye that we sometimes use on others? Do we want every one of our faults, our motives, and our secret thoughts put on display and condemned with the same energy we use when we gossip about a coworker or criticize a family member? Probably not. So, the first part is a warning. Be careful what standard you set, because you're gonna have to live by it. But Jesus gets even more specific. He moves from a general principle to a brilliant and almost comical illustration. He continues, why do you see the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or, how can you say to your brother, let me take the speck out of your eye, when there is the log in your own eye? You hypocrite, first take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. This is everything. This is the heart of the teaching. Notice what Jesus does not say. He does not say, don't worry about the speck in your brother's eye. It's not a big deal. Just ignore it. He actually says the opposite. He implies that taking the speck out of your brother's eye is a good thing to do. It's helpful. It's loving. The goal is to help your brother see more clearly. The problem isn't the desire to help. The problem is the person trying to do the helping. The image is powerful. You have a giant piece of wood, a telephone pole, a log sticking out of your own eye. It's absurd. It's massive. It completely blinds you. And yet, with this giant plank obscuring your vision, you're trying to perform delicate surgery on someone else's tiny little speck of sawdust. You can't even see straight. You're more likely to poke their eye out than you are to help them. You're a blind surgeon. This is what Jesus is calling out. He's not forbidding the act of helping someone with their speck. He's forbidding the hypocritical, blind, and self-unaware way we go about it. The word he uses is hypocrite. A hypocrite is an actor, someone playing a part. In this scenario, you're playing the part of the wise, clear-sighted person who has it all together, while in reality you are blinded by a massive flaw of your own. So, the command judge not is not a command to ignore sin or error. It is a command to start with yourself. The sequence is non-negotiable. First, deal with your own stuff. First, take the massive plank out of your own eye. This is a painful, humbling process. It requires self-examination. It requires confession. It requires acknowledging that you are just as broken and in need of grace as the person you are so eager to correct. It means you stop pointing the finger at everyone else and you finally point it at yourself. Only then, Jesus says, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. The goal of helping your brother is still there, but your qualification has changed. You are no longer a blind hypocrite. You are now a humbled fellow struggler. You've dealt with your own law. You know how hard it is. You know how much grace it required. Now, when you approach your brother about his speck, you don't do it from a position of superiority. You do it from a position of humility and shared weakness. You can say, hey, I've had to deal with some big things in my own life, and I see this little thing that seems to be tripping you up. Can I help? The tone is completely different. It's not condemnation. It's compassion. It's not an accusation. It's an offer of help from someone who knows they need help too. This context transforms the meaning of judge not. It's not about refusing to ever make a moral evaluation. It's about refusing to make a hypocritical, self-righteous, condemnatory judgment from a place of pride. The Greek word used here for judge is krino. It can mean many things. It can mean to discern or evaluate, but in this context, it carries the strong sense of passing a final sentence, of condemning. It's playing God, it's acting as the final judge, jury, and executioner on someone's character or soul. That is the kind of judgment that is forbidden. It's the judgment that says, you are a bad person and I am a good person. It's the judgment that focuses on the other person's failure to make ourselves feel better about our own. So what kind of judging is Jesus talking about? He's talking about the kind that comes from a corrupt heart. It's the judging that is done to elevate oneself. It's the rash judgment that jumps to conclusions without all the facts. It's the harsh judgment that makes no allowance for human weakness and offers no path to restoration. It's the proud judgment that forgets we are all cut from the same cloth and are all desperately in need of mercy. When you have a log in your own eye, that's the only kind of judgment you're capable of making. It's distorted and self-serving, but here's where it gets even more interesting. If you keep reading in Matthew 7, just a few verses later, Jesus says something that seems to require judgment. He says, do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Okay, wait a minute. To obey this command, you have to make a judgment. You have to be able to identify who the dogs and pigs are in a given situation. These are harsh words. Jesus is not talking about literal animals. He's talking about people who are hostile, who mock sacred things, and who will only respond to truth with contempt and violence. To know when not to share something precious, you have to discern the character of the person you're talking to. You have to evaluate their attitude and their response. That requires a form of judgment, or what we might better call discernment. And it doesn't stop there. Later in the same chapter, Jesus gives another command that requires this kind of careful evaluation. He says, watch out for false prophets. They come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ferocious wolves. By their fruit you will recognize them. How can you possibly recognize a false prophet without making a judgment? You have to look at their life, their fruit. You have to listen to their teaching. You have to compare it to the truth. You have to evaluate whether they are a sheep or a wolf in disguise. This is not optional. Jesus commands us to do it. He's telling us to be wise, to be discerning, to use our minds. He's not telling us to be gullible and to accept everyone and everything at face value. Doing that is dangerous. It lets wolves into the flock. So clearly, judge not cannot mean suspend all critical thinking. This shows us that the Bible holds two ideas in tension. On one hand, we are forbidden from making hypocritical, condemnatory judgments. On the other hand, we are commanded to be discerning, to evaluate fruit, and to distinguish between truth and error, good and evil. So how do we tell the difference? What separates forbidden judging from required discerning? The difference is the heart. It's the motive. It's the goal. Forbidden judgment is about condemnation. Its goal is to prove someone wrong, to put them in their place, to win an argument, or to make yourself look superior. It's often done publicly to shame the other person. It's rooted in pride and self-righteousness. It assumes the worst about the other person's motives. It pronounces a final verdict on their character or their destiny. It acts as if we are God. Required discernment, on the other hand, is about protection and restoration. Its goal is to protect yourself and others from harm, like with false prophets, or to gently help a fellow believer get back on the right path. It's rooted in love and humility. It hopes for the best. It deals with observable actions and words fruit, not with unknowable motives or a person's final standing before God. It always remembers its own fallibility. Its aim is not to crush, but to heal. The Apostle Paul gives a perfect example of this in his letter to the Galatians. He writes, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in a sin, you who are spiritual should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you also may be tempted. Look at the elements here. First, you have to identify that someone is caught in a sin. That requires a judgment call. You have to see the behavior and recognize it as harmful or wrong. You can't just ignore it and say, judge not, but then look at the instruction. The goal is not to condemn, but to restore. And the manner is not with a sledgehammer, but gently. And it comes with a warning, watch yourselves. This is the log and speck principle in action. As you go to help your brother with his speck, be intensely aware of the ever-present possibility of a log in your own eye. Be humble. Be careful. You are not immune to the very thing you are trying to address in someone else. In another letter to the church in Corinth, Paul gets even more direct. He scolds the church for failing to judge a situation in their midst. A man was in a blatant public and unrepentant sexual sin, and the church was proudly tolerating it. Paul is shocked. He tells them they need to judge the man's actions and remove him from the community for the health of the church and for the ultimate hope of the man's own restoration. He makes a clear distinction. What business is it of mine to judge those outside the church? Are you not to judge those inside? God will judge those outside. This is a crucial clarification. Paul is saying our primary responsibility for accountability is within the community of faith. We are to hold each other to a standard of love and holiness. This is not about going around pointing fingers at the world and condemning people who don't share our beliefs. That is God's job. But within the family, so to speak, there is a responsibility to lovingly, humbly, and sometimes firmly address behavior that is destructive to the individual and the community. This is a form of judgment, but it's a family matter aimed at health and restoration. So we have a clear picture forming. Judge not is not a soft, sentimental command to be nice and non-confrontational. It's a sharp, radical command about the posture of our hearts. It's a call to abandon the role of God in other people's lives. We are terrible gods. We are biased, ill-informed, and hypocritical. When we try to sit on that throne of judgment, we only make a mess of things. The real target of Matthew chapter 7, verse 1 is the spirit of criticism. It's that default setting in our hearts that is so quick to find fault in others. It's the habit of sizing people up, finding them lacking, and writing them off. It's the little voice in our head that keeps a running tally of other people's mistakes, often to distract us from our own. This critical spirit is a poison. It destroys relationships. It fosters bitterness and resentment. And most insidiously, it blinds us to our own need for grace. When you're busy counting the specks in everyone else's eyes, you have no time or energy to notice the log in your own. Living out the true meaning of judge not is a radical reorientation of our lives. It means we practice a new default setting grace. We assume the best, not the worst. We look for the good. We give people the benefit of the doubt. It means that when we see a flaw in someone, our first reaction isn't, aha, gotcha, but rather a quiet and humble, there but for the grace of God go I. We recognize our shared humanity, our shared brokenness. This doesn't mean we become doormats. It doesn't mean we stop having standards or believing in right and wrong. It means we apply those standards to ourselves first, and most rigorously. We become experts in our own logs. We spend our primary energy on our own spiritual growth, our own repentance, our own character. And when the time comes that we must address a speck in someone else's eye, and those times will come, in parenting, in friendship, in leadership, we do it differently. We do it with a limp. We do it as a fellow patient, not as the doctor. We do it with an abundance of humility, knowing that we are just as susceptible to foolishness and sin. Our words will be seasoned with gentleness, and our goal will be healing. Think about the freedom in this. When we stop trying to be the judge of everyone else, a huge burden is lifted from our shoulders. We are free to simply love people. We are free to be gracious. We are free to focus on our own walk with God. It's exhausting, trying to be the moral police of the universe. Jesus invites us to lay down that gavel. So, what does judge not actually mean? It means you stop condemning people. You stop acting like you have the final say on their soul or their worth. You leave ultimate judgment to God, who is the only one who sees the full picture and has the right to do it. It means you start with the person in the mirror. You make an honest and ruthless inventory of your own life, your own motives, your own big blinding logs, before you even think about pointing out someone else's tiny speck. It means that when you do need to speak truth or correct someone, you do it from a place of profound humility, gentleness, and love, with the clear goal of restoration, not condemnation. It means you exchange a critical spirit for a gracious spirit. You become quicker to forgive than to find fault. You offer the same mercy you so desperately need yourself. It is not a command for moral apathy. It is a command for radical self-awareness and humility. It's the foundation for healthy relationships and a healthy community. It's the only way we can ever truly help one another. First, we get the log out of our own eye. We deal with our own pride, our own anger, our own greed, our own hypocrisy. And after that long, painful, and humbling process, we will finally be able to see clearly. And what we will see is a brother or a sister who needs our help, not our condemnation. And we will finally be able to offer it.